I know our expert was patiently waiting and observing Mr. Asanga Ranasinghe coming from local and multinational experience. So, Mr. Ranasinghe, have you heard from three diverse personalities reflecting on three separate research areas? So how would you synthesize the whole takeaways to business community at large?
So, Prof, thank you very much. It's a sort of a very difficult task given at the end. So my brief is purely to talk about the application of your findings to the industry. So with your permission, Shehani, I'll start from you. The gender diversity, I come from an organization having worked there with you also for a long period of time, which had a stated objective of having a certain percentage at different management levels of having women in various positions. I must first of all tell you, as you were quite rightly outlining, getting women into the organization at lower level, to first level management or to middle level management, once you have stated that objective, once you have the culture that enables women to work, it is an easier task. So women joined. So for example, I worked in Pakistan, in Unilever Pakistan. You would think that Pakistan is a very male-dominant society. But if you look at Unilever Pakistan, there are more women at the entry level than men, especially in marketing, in some of the other fields, advertising and so on. There are more women than men. As you quite rightly said, Shehani, there is the academic system sort of enables women to prepare them to join the industry. So entry level and maybe a level up is not the issue. Issue is when you go up into senior management, when you go up to real top level leadership, and certainly at boardroom level, that is where it starts. It starts due to various reasons. It starts, as you quite rightly said, Shehani, women themselves not being able to cope up with the I wouldn't say pressure, the demands of life, both from the family front as well as from the organizational front. The organizations have not enabled women to work at leadership positions. For example, the ways of working, the infrastructure. Now, for example, a simple thing like having a creche in an office is not easy. We can always, I was part of a team that started a creche in Unilever Pakistan, but that had all sorts of issues. It's not easy. So I think the business case is very clear. Having more women in leadership, the business case is very clear. Having said that, organizations have also committed to do that, especially multinational organizations or blue chip companies have made the commitment to bring gender diversity into their management or leadership positions. But doing it is not easy. It's very difficult. First, the leadership has to change. Ways of working has to change. The infrastructure has to change. The culture has to change. Women themselves have to change. The example you took, at a particular time, a man and a woman would join. It happens that the woman has to go on maternity leave. When she comes back, the man is 2 steps up. She sometimes will have to report to him. These are simple issues, but create a lot of problems. I have had a lot of situations in my team, in marketing, where the lady would come back from maternity leave and the only position that is available for her to come into the team is to be a subordinate of that, the same person with whom she joined. She refuses to come. Then she leaves. So there are lots of issues like that. But the business case, Professor, is very clear. Having more women, businesses benefit. It's proven. And organizations say if the business case is positive, why don't you have more women? But it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Then the first point is about coaching and mentoring. Now this again Again, it's I have worked for one of the organizations that you have interviewed people from, again Unilever, and from the face value, should we move from performance appraisal to performance management to performance development? Should we bring in coaching and mentoring into the organization? Everybody will raise hands and say, yes, we must do it. Certainly, we must do it. Coaching is very good. Mentoring is even better. But doing it is very difficult. When you do it right, performance development planning, your employee engagement scores go up. And I have seen that. Even companies like Unilever has tried to do it at all levels in the organization, move from performance appraisals to performance development. This whole judge to real mentoring to coaching, looking at the rear view mirror versus looking at the front. I have seen this. Unilever tried to do it at all levels, but couldn't really succeed. Especially in some environments where the workforce is unionized, your staff is unionized. In such situations, coaching and mentoring becomes very difficult, Samita. But when you try to do it at high level, especially at levels like identifying what they call high potential people, key people in key jobs. That's one of the goals in main companies or big companies, to have key people who have the potential to really rise up, to have them in key jobs. In such situations, when you do coaching and mentoring, it really works. It adds a lot of value. And on top of that, to coach and to mentor, you need to invest on the leadership. So companies like Unilever spend a lot of time, a lot of money in preparing the future leaders who are able to coach and mentor people. Because if you give the coaching job to somebody outside, then that's not taken seriously. And that's not aligned with the organizational objectives. So again, Vindhya, the case is very clear. But can it be applied to all levels of the organization? My answer is, I have had experience of not being able to apply and implement it at every level. At the same time, can you implement in all types of organizations? I have worked in multinationals and I have worked in local companies. Local companies sometimes struggle because the caliber of leadership who has to do this coaching, who has to do this mentoring, needs to be uplifted. And for that, there's a lot of investment that has to be put in. If you talk to HR leader in multinational companies like Unilever or Nestle or P&G, they would tell you how much money, how much effort has been put into developing leaders. And one big area in the development of a leader is to develop his coaching skills, mentoring skills, so that he is able to do it in a consistent way. And also it is consistent from one leader to the other. It is not about that functional goal. It is not about the goals of today, tomorrow. It's about the organization. So for example, I joined Unilever as a management trainee in a factory. And when I left Unilever, I was heading marketing. So people move from one function to the other. In the coaching or the performance development planning cycle, this has to be taken into account. The career advancements, the succession planning, and so on. Whether the leaders are able to do that kind of coaching, that's very difficult to develop. So it's a fantastic idea again. It's a fantastic idea. All hands will go up. Should we move from a performance appraisal to coaching and mentoring? It's again, the business case is very clear. But to execute that, to implement that, it's a challenge. Implementing that in big companies, like especially in multinationals or blue chip companies you have studied, it succeeds. But when you are to take it to medium-sized companies, owner-led companies, SMEs, it's not easy. So some more research, some more findings have to be, you have to embark on. I have realized that to get this embedded in the performance development planning cycle, there's a big role to develop the leaders who do the coaching, who do the mentoring. If you get this right, then of course, you can reap the benefits of it. But having said that, a journey of 1,000 miles start with one step. So you have to take this first step. And when you take the first step in the process you develop. In my 25 years at Unilever got it wrong in the first place, had a lot of union issues. Unions went on strike in some countries when you moved away from target setting to performance development planning, not only at the workforce level, even at the staff level. So it has to be done by enrolling people, but the results are very clear. When you get it right, employee engagement scores go up. If you ask middle-level managers or even higher-level managers, what is the main reason for you to leave? They complain about the whole evaluation process. And Prof, you're right. At MBA level, if you ask them, they're not happy with the evaluation. So we have to move into performance development planning, making coaching and mentoring a big thrust. But to move, there's a big agenda in the organization that needs to be taken on. The third point, Tamal Raj, what you commented about on Hasini's paper, this is, of course, a hot topic these days. Hot desking, having workspaces. You don't have to own a workspace to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to have your own office, the big corporate building to be an entrepreneur. Very clear. But is it only limited to SMEs? Is it only limited to some type of businesses? Can a typical fast-moving consumer goods company sell its corporate office and move to this kind of workspaces? It's not easy. It's not easy. Because these companies have to compete. In competition, one big part is to get the right people. Think about a company who works in a workspace like this versus having a big corporate office. Will you be able to attract the best talent? I'm talking about typical home and personal care or a food business. So industry, the type of industry still has a big role. But having said that, I again have experience in big companies like Unilever again. Within their own offices, they have moved away from these rooms and my own space and so on. Hot desking is something that is really being cultivated in such companies. Open offices, hot desking has really made some kind of a progress in this direction. But certainly, it is something that we must embark on. Awareness has to be built. Relevance has to be built. More than that, conviction has to be built. For you to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to have a big office. You don't have to have a big building space of your own for you to get into business. That really takes away a big entry barrier for entrepreneurs. It's a very good idea. But again, whether it's applicable to all types of industries is a question that needs to be probed more on.
Thank you, Mr. Asanga Ranasinghe, for those wonderful insights, bringing your overall well-rounded expertise to the scene. So let me ask you one further question. Now, you are the MBA coordinator at PIA. Now, these are solid MBA products, and we promote, don't do an MBA, but be brilliant as a PIM MBA. How do you look at the future of research in MBA, a typical MBA? Some have got rid of it, the short-term, so-called fly-by-night MBA. How do you see the future of such relevant research embedded into a good MBA curriculum?
Prof, I think there are two things that are very important. The MBAs that have got rid of the research component, I think good luck. Good luck to them, and good luck to the students who follow them. The orientation, the way your mind is oriented to think, you will never get if you don't have a research component in an MBA. It's extremely important. It's not important, it's essential. So I think PIM we should never, and I don't think we will ever do it. PIM should never have less focus on research. In fact, we must have more focus. We must encourage more of our students to do quality research, because the structured approach, the way of thinking, that will help in the years to come. You will probably go through a lot of pain while doing your research, but the long-term gain is huge. Having said that, we do a lot of research, lots and lots of research. All that is very good. But the industry, I come from industry, having worked in the industry for 30 years. Industry is crying for research findings that are applicable to business. How can the business, as you said, Samita, how can the business get results, quick results? How can the business get sustainable results? And if PIM, Dr. Kalum, if we are able to promote research where the findings give value to the industry, I think our collaboration with the industry will be even stronger. So in short, we need to have research, even more research, but we need to have more applicable research.
Thank you, Mr. Asanga Ranasinghe. So may I now go around one quick response from each panelist. Thank you very much for your valued thought sharing. One sentence advice to the emerging researchers, because you all come from the valuable industry background. So what would you expect from the emerging researchers in one sentence?
Thank you.
Last but not the least, Mr. Asanga Ranasinghe, your final thoughts.
So I think my only humble request to our learning partners is that don't let your research report be a book report that go into a cupboard. Make sure that your report, your findings get implemented. I'm sure the industry is waiting for findings that will create value for the industry. They are waiting. We have to understand, as Malraj said, understanding the needs and deliver. Don't make your report go into a cupboard.
Thank you very much.